Today's daf is Masechus Nedarim Daf Nun Ches. So we are on the second to bottom line, Daf Nun Zayin of the Beis. The Gemara just finished saying we tried to bring a raya from this member the Gemara brought that Reb Yochanan holds that gidulim that grows out of Isser could mevatel the Iker and take away the Isser. So Gemara says it's not a raya because over there you see that we're machmer, you say on the ikr you have to give meiser again. That's because it's only a chumrah. So now the Gemara is still trying to bring a raya. It says Dr. Gemara Elam and Hada. If you want to be poshed yourself, you can be poshed from here. The Tanya Reb Shimon Omer. Reb Shimon says, Kol davar sheish lo matirin, anything of isser that has matirin, that it could return back to heter, even without the din of bittul, kegoin tevel, for instance, peiros of tevel that got mixed, that the Trumas Meiser was not taken, and it got mixed with peiros that were already Trumas Meiser was taken from it, and you could be mater the tevel al yedei being mafresh other tevel on it, umeiser sheni. Or if you have Ma'aser Sheni of Isser, which you can matter al yedei being, you could redeem it on money. Well, if you have, it's talking about if you have Ma'aser Sheni that got mixed into non-Ma'aser Sheni. So the way that you could undo that and fix it is by either being paid on kesef, or you could bring the taruvis to Yerushalayim and eat the whole thing there with tahira. The hektish that got mixed into chulin, also you could be paid the hektish on money. The chadash. So, or if you have tuah chadasha, you have tuah that is mutter b'achila after akrava sa'imer on the Tezayin Nisan, and if it got mixed in Esther. So again, so in all of these, lenasam b'em chacham shir, chachamim did not give a shir to, meaning how much you have to have in order for it to be aser. It's aser b'chol shehu. So by these, the halacha is because it's possible. Rashi and Be'er Daf Gimel explains because it's possible for it to return to heter, and there's a way to get it mutter and the way to fix it. So therefore, Chacham said that even with a kol shu it's aser, and you can never be mevatel the iser because it's possible to be mevatel the iser legitimately. Zok the Gemara vayter v'chol davar she'ein lematirin kegoyin truma meiser v'chalav v'orlo klai akarim, and anything that does not have matirin. For instance, Truma Gedola, Trumas Meiser, Chala, Orla, and Klaya Kerem. So in all of these, Trumas Meiser, Chala, Orla, Klaya Kerem, since it's not asa to be mutter, there's no real way of being mutter it. So Nasam Chacham Shir, Chacham said that there's a shir. When it falls, when you have a certain amount of heter, then the Isser becomes mutter. So but Trumas Meiser and Chala it's 100th, and Arla Klai Karam it's 200. If one chelik of Isser goes into 200 of Heter, then it becomes mutter. Va'amru Loi, and the Chachamim told Reb Shimon on his memory what he said. They asked him, is it correct that something that does not have ein matirin, that it should be batal on teruvas of heter? V'haloi shvius ein matirin. Shvius, after it reaches a time, is man beer on fruits ein matirin. The isser shvius stays forever. That's what chacham shir. Chacham did not give a shir to say when it's mutter. Rather, they said that anything gets mixed into it, even a kol shua that gets mixed into davar heter, it never gets butter. Never gets bottled. The Tanan Hashvius says Mishnah Shvius Parak Zayin, Mishnah Zayin Hashvius Seres, peiros of Shvius that gets mixed into chulin, Ya'asas Taruvis, even if it's not from Shvius. A kol shua, even if you only have a drop mixed into heter, it makes the whole thing aser. Bimina only if it's the same min. So the peri isser of shvius and the peri heter, the tarufas that got mixed into, has to be the same type of pri. So the Gemara is asking Reb Shimon, you see from this halacha and shvius that even a kol shu falls in tarufas, it's usher forever. Amalahem, Reb Shimon said, don't ask me from this Mishnah. Because even by isser shvius, it's not all over that a kol shu asers the whole tarufas. Zok Reb Shimon, no, Afani lo yamarti, he's saying the Mishnah in Shvi is not shvarmi, because I agree. Afani lo yamarti el labir, this thing, that the whole thing that you see in Mishnah Shavuos, that Shvi is asas b'chol is only beer. It's before his man a beer, because you are able to chop around and you have a heter time that you could eat this thing, so that's why it's considered davar sheish matirin, that the isser is never bottle. Avala achila, if it gets mixed in after his man a beer, let's say, he's saying that's not the Mishnah. Then the taruvas does not get usher, only b'nois and tam. Then taruvas only gets usher b'nois and tam. So then it's only usher b'nois and tam, which is, but that does not have 60 chalakim, does not have shishim against it. But if it has shishim against it, then you don't taste the flavor of the kol shu anymore. So then the isser is bottle, like anything is in the matirin. So now the Gemara is going to flip it around. The Gemara is going to say from this that you see from the Mishnah that as is a kol shehu. So it would come out that gidulei shvius that got mixed into the ikar of heter. For instance, if you have an onion from the 6th year that you planted on the 7th year, then the whole butzo or whatever grew in the 7th year is going to come aser alsa isser shvius. So what do you see from here? That the ikar goes after the gedulim, because the gedulim was in the 7th year. The ikar batzel was in the 6th year, and you see that the gedulim has a koyach to asa the whole thing. So you see lechar the Gemara is saying you push fakir from this mission in shvius, because you see that batzel of shvius that you plant in shminis. So although the ikar is also cuts from shvius, it will be mutter because you go basa the gedulim, and it has a shishim to battle the isser that's from the little bit that grew in the 7th year. So the Gemara, no, you don't have a raya. This that you would say that the gedulim would aser the ikar, if the ikar was heter and the gedulim was isser, that's only lechumra. Zok the Gemara, you don't have a raya. Zok the Gemara, hada pasha. I'll bring a raya from this Mishnah. The Tanam we learned in the Mishnah. It's salim sheyard alim gisham v'tzimchu. Bitzalim that grew in the 6th year, and then you ripped them out and you replanted them in the 7th year in Shvius, which is Isser. Sheyardu aleim geshamim v'tzimchu, and then rain poured in there and it grew a little bit more. So you could be mesupik if the leaves that grew, did it grow from the karka, and I said it's gedulei Shvius and it's Aser, or did it grow because of the lachluchas of Gemei Geshamim? So it's not from the ground, so because it was already existing onion, so maybe because an onion, even when it's detached from the ground, if it has enough lachluchas on top of it, it could still grow. So maybe it's not gedulei shvius. So the Mishnah says, this Mishnah of shvius, if they were turning black, the leaves, then avada you say it grew from the ground, and it's asurim. But hoiriku, if the color of the leaves on the plant is greenish, and it's a siman that it's from the batzel itself, and it's going to be mutter b'chai gavner. As I say in Mishnah, Reb Chananya ben Antignas says, even if it does not get black, im yechon litalesh ba'olin shalahen, if you could detach from the ground when you're pulling on the leaves, then that shows that avada grew. So he's saying, no, even if it's not black, which according to Tanakama would mean that it grew from the batzel and it's not usher, saying it's still, if you could grab on, if it's so strong, you grab onto the leaves of the plant and it'll pull out of the ground, that's a similar that grow from the ground, because that's the strength of the growing from the ground. It's much stronger, and it's asur, and it's asur. Zok the Mishnah weiter, uchenegdan l'moitzi shvius. What happened if you took a batzel of shvius and you replanted it on shvius? On Moitzi Shvius, and Geshamim poured down on it and it grew. Then you go basa the same simonim. If it's shchayr mekuna das tanakama, or if you could detach it from the ground, i.e. they pull on its leaves according to Chanani ben Antignis, then you say that it's mutar and it does not have kedusha shvius. Because in this case, so no, if I cared actually, the Gemara is saying that l'moitzi shvius is going to be mutar if it has most of the gidol comes in moitzi shvius, so then it's going to be vatal the iser. That's going to be mutter. So if it's talking about the Meimer, you see the Geduli Heter Mailanas Isser. You see the Geduli Heter of Moitzi Shvius is going to matter the Iker, which came from Shvius, and it doesn't go, but the Gidol does not go basa the Iker, because you matter the Alam that grew on Moitzi Shvius, even though it came out of Isser. It's like the Gemara of Adulam Duchanin. So the Gemara can be matcher Araya of Adulam Duchanin. That maybe this is talking about this case that it's mutter is talking about chai gavna, that you broke apart the batzel, you chopped it and you ground it, and it's not considered a davar eser anymore, and chai gavna the gidol would not go after it. Zakti Gemara weiter. Let the Gemara wants to continue. The Gemara wants to continue bringing a raya if the ikr, and the Gemara wants to say that the gidol of heter is a vatal the eser ela min hada. Post from here. The Tanya learned in a brayso. Hamenakesh. If you have a Yiddish worker, a Jewish worker, that is, he's menakesh. He's weeding out the leaves from what's growing on the plants. Imakusi. So he does it next to kusi b'chasayis. So the case is the Yid's working side by side in the field with a guy, and the guy has chasayis, which is types of yerokis that it's ein zarim kolam, meaning like an onion. And that's talking about that the guy gave the Yid rishus to eat from these vegetables. So the halacha is oichel mehen achilas ar. The Yid, before it's nigma malachton and becomes mamish tevel, as a din like geduli karka, that he can eat achilas arai without. Means you could just stop me randomly, without me mafresh trumas and meisers, and we're not afraid that maybe the guy planted tevel in what he's eating, what he gave you to eat, because the achilas arai. Because the whole achila, the whole isser of achilas gidol of tevel is only chumar d'Rabbanan, and we weren't machmir when we know for sure that the gidol is. They were only machmir when we know for sure the gidol is a gidol tevel, but you don't have to be chaysher. So halacha is the yid can eat achilas ari or ma'ason, and he gives meiser vaday, ma'aser and vaday. So it looks like Ba'asman Vaday is a separate halacha. It's saying if you actually buy from a guy, then you give meiser like regular Vaday tevel, because that's different when you're buying it from him, because then you know for sure that the kusi did not give meiser. Rav Shimon Lazar argues. He doesn't argue. He says another din. Rav Shimon Lazar Omer, im Yisrael chashad al shvius. If this worker that is working in the field of a Yid is chashad al shvius, l'moitzi shvius. So if the guy is working in the field of a Yid, which is chashad al shvius, and then he works by him moitzi shvius, which you know for sure that min hastam the gedulim of now are from chasayis of shvius, which would be aser al tzvichim, or the chayiv beer. Halacha is mutter. The menakesh is allowed to eat from the gedulim. Why? Because you say that probably the gedulim in the shminis grew a lot more than is there from shvius, the chasayis from shvius, the batzel, let's say, and it's mavatal it. Zakti Gemara lemeimer the geduli heter. So you see that geduli heter are not nimshach achar iser. Mylin is iser. Nefakert, you see that the adrab, it's mile the iser, and just like we see that the poil is allowed to eat on the shminis gedule chesayis of shvius. So you see in this case that the gedol is mavatal the iser very clearly. So the Gemara wants to try to slug up the rise. Like the Gemara of Dilma, the davar shazari color. Maybe over here it's not talking about a davar she'in zari color like a batzal. Maybe it's talking about tfuah. It's the zari color. So therefore, if you take something from shvius and plant it on sheminis with the pile, it's going to be mutter. Because in that case, everybody agrees it's not nimshachach erker. So the Gemara about Tanya ilahin chasayis. She says no. The brisa clear is talking about chasayis, which is things that is ein zari color. For instance, lof, shum, and betzalim. Fracting Amara, the Gemara is still trying to slug it up. Vidoma, Avadi, I'll tell you, Geduli Heter is not Mavatal Iker, rather it's Nimshach after it. And over here it's talking about Meduchanan. It's talking about that he ground the Isser beforehand, so the Chahai Gavna, the Isser is not really Usser, so that's why the Gedulim Mutter. So the Gemara, no. Because it says chashar al shvius katani. The Bride says clearly it was chashar al shvius. So why would he go ahead and grind it? Obviously, he was chashar al shvius. He doesn't care about the iser of shvius. For the more of a dilma, maybe the brisa is only saying that it's mutter for the poil to eat the chasayis b'taruvis, only in the case where there's taruvis, and it was mixed with heter, and in that case to say bittul b'roiv. So the Gemara, that also is not mustaver to say, because hamanakish katani. It's mashma, he's eating it while he's working in the field, and he's working on the plants. He's allowed to eat it. It's not shaykh taruvus over there. He has the plants right in front of him. You see, the Mozain, the only reason why it's mutter because the gedulim are mevatel the ikr, where it's rabu hagedulim of heter. So Dr. Mar lame it to heavy tiyufta derb yechanan. Because Yochanan said, the Kash on Yochanan says the Gabi Arla, that if it gets mixed with, if a plant of Arla gets mixed with a plant of non-Arla, the Geduli Heter are not Mavatal the Isser, when what grows later on, with Rabbi Yoina's son. Rabbi Yoina said the Gabi Klaya Kerem, which was planted in the Kerem, even if later on you Oiker the Kerem, the Geduli Heter are not Mavatal the Isser. That was there prior. Rabbi Yitzchak says, no, it's not shver on shvius for Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi Yonasan. Why? Because shanya shvius only b'suri al yedei karka. Shvius is different than other isurim because shvius, the isser is al yedei the karka. The kedusha of the karka is goyim the isser, like it says v'shaf saharetz, and therefore b'teilasa nami al yedei karka. Because the kedusha shvius, the karka is what made the isser. So afterwards, the karka could go ahead and flip it around and make the isser. Masha'inga by Erla and Klai Kerem, it's not the karka it's going in the isser, it's rather the fact that it didn't have enough time, Erla, to become Is Erla, and the taruvis, the fact that it mixed in Klai Kerem, that was Goyim isser. So therefore, in that case, the karka cannot be mevatel the isser. Rather, you say the gidol's nimshach after the isser, and it's also the gidol's also like the ikr, not like shvius. Mordi Getaretz. Fracting Amara, Meiser the Isur de Karka, by Meiser the Israelite de Karka, the fact that it grew in the ground, it becomes Tevel, and it's Chayiv and Trumas of Meiser is Ve'em B'Teilosoi al Yidei Karka. The Bittul Isser is not, can't happen al Yidei growing in the ground, it can't take away Isser, the Tanya, like we learned in the Brisa, litra, measurement of a liter of Meiser, of Paris Meiser, Rishain, that the Yisrael gave a Levi, which is Tevel, and he was not mafresh a trumas to the Levi yet. Shizra Bakarka, and he while it was still Tevel, he planted in the ground before Shvias. The Shpicha, and it grew much more after that in the 7th year in Shvias. Vahare he ke'eser litrin, and now it came the size, it got 10 times bigger to a size of eser litrin. The halacha is chayeves b'maiser, it's chayev b'maiser. So even though before it was chayav and meiser, and technically something you plant on shvius is pater from meiser because it's hefker, and hefker is pater from meiser, you see it's not batal, even though you replanted that in shvius year, which it should really, the karka should pater from meiser. So you see it's chayeves from meiser ube shvius, and meidach gisa legabe kedusha shvius, it's batal legabe the gedulim, and you see after you ate before there's manabir. Va'oiser litra is still chayav and meiser mokom achar lefi chashbon. So what do you see from here? You see not like Rabbi Yitzchak said. You see over here that karka, that although you have Isser that was made al yedei karka, it's not batal al yedei karka b'chai gamna. So the Gemara Amri B'nei Yeshiva said you can't ask from this Bryce Rabbi Yitzchak. Why? Because Meiser digun hu de kagarasli. That because by Meiser, what makes the chi of Meiser is not because of karka, rather it's meiruach in the kri. When you go and you spread it out, and when you're harvesting it, that's what makes the chi. Digunu the kagarasle, that's what makes the Isser, that's the Gemar Malacha, that's what's considered finished Malacha, and that's when the Chiv is Chal. But before Digun, it's Mutter, even though it grew in the ground, right? It's still Mutter. The Tvor, you're still allowed to eat it. So, therefore, you say that the Hagam, you have Shvias afterwards, in this case, in the Bryce or whatever, but because the Isser is not made al Yidei Karka, the Bittel cannot either happen al Yidei Karka, like you want to say about Arla and Klein. I'm sorry. Yeah, just like you see about Arla and Klein, the Bittel cannot have any Karka, in this case, B'chai Gahamna also, although Shvius is in the mix over here, but Hayoy said the Chi of Meiser was not created with Karka, it was only created by Diggin, so it's different than that Mishnah by what we saw by Shvius.